You are listening to Sean Harrison on Amp Life Talk Radio, a place for amputees and those dealing with limb loss. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.
Well, welcome back everyone to another episode of Amp Life Talk Radio. I'm so happy you are here with me today. Good to have everybody back. Hopefully everyone is getting us loud and clear out there in TV land, as they say. I'm happy to be back. It's, man, these are some crazy times that we are living in. I just hope that everybody's safe. Well, I hope that everyone is okay out there, because we are definitely living in times to where we will be able to tell our kids about these moments that we are living through. Pretty crazy stuff going on, but hopefully you're okay. Hopefully everyone that you care about is okay also, and that you're doing fine yourself. Hopefully you are able to get me wherever you're at, live for another show here on Amp Life Talk Radio, a show for amputees and those affected by limb loss. I am just lucky to be where I'm at, man, and to be on air and to be doing what I am doing. There are some crazy things happening out there in our universe, we'll say. Man, hopefully all of you are doing very well. And again, my thoughts are with everyone. If you hear my voice doing some strange things, it's because I cleaned my control board the other day, and I think some of my knobs got moved. So hopefully I'm not sounding too weird out there as I try to adjust everything here with you. The show that we're going to be talking about today is one that I think is important. Well, let's do it from this standpoint. We've been talking about some different things here on the show. One, setting goals, how you do that, the purpose of doing that, why I feel that's important. And I think it's really important for every amputee to really understand why we set goals. The big reason why we try to set goals in your life as a person dealing with limb loss or limb difference. There are very important reasons why we try to do that. I think some are pretty obvious. Some may not be obvious once you experience something such as limb loss. Living with limb loss is something that I think most people don't really give much thought until it happens to them. Then it becomes front and center, and you have to really try and figure out how to do it. And that's what this show is about, and that's why I put together this podcast. I mean, I'm just talking to you a little bit before we really get started, because I know some people find this show and it's their first time finding an episode, and I'd like for them to really understand the reason why I do the show. If you are listening right now, this is a live show. You can go to Spreaker.com and basically listen to the show live. That's the one good thing about the show, is that you can go over and catch the show when it's broadcasting live. Really cool aspect there. I'm actually looking at the screen. If I pull up the episode, shows me streaming live, and you can leave comments, and I will always say to people, welcome. I used to do it over on Facebook Live, but as we all know, Facebook has its own current issues going on, and I'm really trying to pull away from that platform. Welcome to another show. For those of you that have been with me through 4 seasons of doing this show, I think you understand I've talked about just about every topic I can possibly talk about. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water there on there. And I am enjoying coffee, so you may hear me taking sips. I'll try to cut myself off as I do stuff like that. I've tried to take the show from one aspect of dealing with amputees, peer support, limb loss, to as we graduate, we go into other aspects of limb loss, because limb loss is not one-dimensional. There are many aspects to limb loss, and doing a podcast, a show, means you're going to touch on all these different topics and subjects, and I'm trying to make sure I do address the full spectrum, we'll say. So of late, I've been trying to explain to people, I've been reading quite a few books on emotional well-being. And part of emotional well-being, when we're talking about limb loss, is goal setting and how we can do that. So these series of talks that I'm talking about, we're now into something called, well, before I get into that, let's do a proper introduction. I would like to welcome everyone to Amp Life Talk Radio, the podcast. If you're a new amputee, this is a show that deals with limb loss. As we understand, living with limb loss can be challenging. It can be a tough thing for people who get that type of news. That can be very, very devastating. You have questions, concerns, and can feel alone in the process. Well, my name is Sean Harrison. I'm here to try and help you through that. That's what this podcast is for. It's what it's all about. As an amputee myself, this is why I started this podcast. Amp Life Talk Radio is all about empowering amputees to reach their full potential through communication, education, and inspiration. Death by 1,000 cuts. That's where I left you off on the last show. For those of you that are tuning in new, you're probably wondering, what is this guy talking about? Well, when we talk about death by 1,000 cuts, we tend to do things to ourselves that hamper us from being able to live a full life. Tonight's episode is part of a series of talks on how to set goals. Death by 1,000 cuts is one aspect of understanding why we can't or don't even get to set goals or even achieve them. Accomplishing our goals, why is that important? How often do you set goals? How often do you revisit your list of goals? We all know that setting goals is important, but we don't often realize how important they are as we continue to move through life. Goal setting does not have to be boring. And know a lot of people think, oh man, I gotta set goals. That's so boring. That's so time consuming. Well, depends. There are many benefits and advantages to having a set of goals to work towards, especially as an amputee. Whether you're a new amputee or an amputee who's been doing it for some time, I find that getting up, having goals, setting goals really keeps us motivated, helps keep us focused. As an amputee, sometimes it can be hard to think about goals, to set goals. Your first goal as an amputee, especially a new amputee, is getting back on your feet, getting back to life. Physical therapy. Sorry, my chair is a little squeaky. If you heard that. I got to get some WD-40 on that thing. Segment 1, we're going to talk about the importance, benefits, and value of setting goals. I just gave you a few reasons and things that will be placed before you as a new amputee. Even some people have not really thought about setting goals, and they've been an amputee for some time. Goal setting is a very important aspect for anyone, amputee, limb loss, or not. Goals are a way that we can take perspective of our life and see how we are accomplishing things. As an amputee, the importance and benefit and value of setting goals. Ling Chi is a term we're going to be talking about today because Ling Chi stands for death by 1,000 cuts. It is a Chinese term that is commonly translated in the West as death by 1,000 cuts. This, of course, is a metaphor. A metaphor that I will be using throughout this talk with you today to help you understand why we fail at goal setting and or other areas in our life. As you look back at life's challenges that have been placed upon you or at your feet or came to you, such as in your health, wealth, relationships, you'll find that personal failures are typically not the result of just one problem. Rather, the big problem in life is about the issues that really matter, are usually the results of lots of little problems, little cuts. The thousand seamlessly minuscule issues that will allow, or we'll say, these little bitty things that you probably don't even think about that are occurring in your life that over time accumulate year after year. What are some examples of that? Let's just say not taking your health serious, keeping up with our diabetes, stop drinking so much, putting off losing weight, starting a gym, or just getting up and moving, stop smoking, etc. All these little things that add up do understand some of us are different when we talk about how limb loss occurred for us, or limb difference. Some of these may apply, some of these may not apply. Everyone is different. But we all know these little things that we tend to not pay much attention to or give much merit. They do add up. Taken one by one, these little problems are hardly even noticeable when we go through our lives. When we're just living, these little things just that we're not doing, that we don't pay attention to, that we don't think are relevant or important. But when taken in to perspective, into a bigger picture, the eventual buildup of these issues can lead to catastrophic consequences. They can lead to a catastrophe. Some of you know what I'm talking about. 1,000 little problems come together and become one big problem, or big problems. Disaster eventually strikes, and we experience Ling Chi, a death by 1,000 little cuts. As you meditate on this concept and look back upon the past obstacles in your life, you might be surprised at just how rich the Ling Chi metaphor is. The 1,000 little mistakes you made in life might suddenly become obvious to you. The little things we knew we should have did, but we didn't. Can you close your eyes and see the long chain of poor decisions which ultimately led to the one failure or another? Can you identify the little mistakes? Can you see yourself making them? Can you envision how things could have been different? In order for us to make change, an effective change, we must be able to see our mistakes. What led us down the wrong path? We have to be able to see that. We have to be able to come to grips with that. We have to be able to acknowledge it. So one of the things I always tell people who are new to being an amputee, whether you're new or old, we have to come to grips with we are an amputee. You may have noticed that the difficulties in your life are not the result of just one cause. Rather, they originate from 1,000 little cuts, 1,000 little negative decisions that come together to create a difficult life problem. Segment 2. All these cuts try their hardest to teach us lessons. Segment 2. Are we learning? Do we understand? A cut about nothing, or a cut about nothing getting what we want. A little cut. We want something, we don't get it. Teaches us this life is full of disappointments. And we should really learn to focus on the things we already have. gratitude. Are we learning from these 1,000 little cuts? What can we learn from these 1,000 little cuts? Gratitude is probably the biggest one that I try to teach and get people to understand. Focus on what you have and what you instead of what you don't have. After going through limb loss, it's very easy to switch our focus to that we don't have anymore, rather than what we do have. A cut about out of control blood sugar. A cut about smoking. A cut about being more active. A cut about drinking too much. A cut about using what we have and not what we don't. All these little cuts that keep us from even setting or making a goal. Most of these things we have all experienced, never really thought much about. There could be others on your list. This is just a list that I'm using for talking points. But to get the perspective of what I'm talking about is the little things that we're doing. And not so much that they're leading us into what happened for the amputation, but after the amputation. What are we doing that's keeping us from setting our goals for the purpose of living a full life? Motivation. It's funny, I want to share something with you about, most of you do know, I work in the prosthetic field. And we had a talk the other day about some of the requirements for us as professionals trying to get you into that prosthetic device or an orthotic device, whatever it is, the medical components and DME that we're trying to get you. There are requirements set by Medicare, Medi-Cal, your insurance provider, things that we have to chase down for you. Part of that, and these things that are called medical necessities. So when we think about that, this is to give you an understanding of why learning how to avoid these 1,000 little cuts and why goal setting becomes so important. Because one of the top things that they look at in these 5 things that we need to document to justify that device for you. The very top one, motivation. Is the patient motivated to use or want the device? Where are you going to get your motivation from? Goal setting. I always try to get, a good idea of each patient. I always ask, what are some of your motivations? So what are some of the things you want to do again now that you've suffered an amputation? What are some of the things that you want to go back to? I always find that to be a very, very interesting question. Some people can answer that right away. While others, they take a little bit of time. It takes a moment for them to pull themselves out of the moment that they're in with dealing with the amputation, laying in a hospital bed. It takes them a minute. But what motivates you? How are you going to get back on track to doing the things that you love, that you want to do? Well, setting goals. Setting goals. Giving up those old habits. Letting go of those old habits. Realizing that we actually have bad habits that are preventing us from getting things accomplished. That's the first thing. Segment 3. Little by little habits. The little by little habits. Remember, little by little we have these little things that we don't get done, or we don't think, I won't go to the gym today. One more drink, one more hamburger. Little by little, the little things that we do. We can choose to learn from these 1,000 cuts, or we can choose to ignore them and simply bear the pain. Some choose the latter path and go through life with the burden of 1,000 cuts. These unhealed cuts weighing them down. But most of the time, especially in everyday life, winning happens little by little. Overcoming obstacles occur over the long term. So when you're talking about living your life as an amputee or someone with limb difference, these 1,000 little cuts can weigh us down if we choose not to acknowledge them or don't even know that they're having an effect on us. Goal setting is a way to measure our achievements. Are we reaching our goals, or are we not reaching our goals? Most of you will be placed with a goal or given a goal of how many steps to take in a day for lower limb amputees. Upper extremities is a little bit different, but you're going to be given that goal of try to use your device every day, try to take so many steps every day, try to be in it a certain amount of hours. You'll never know unless you set some goals. Hey, I'm going to be able to get up. I want to try and go to the mall. Hey, I want to go try and visit friends, or I want to try and put my leg on and go for a walk. I want to see if I can do stuff around my house, my laundry, my dishes. Setting those goals will help you understand your progress. Along the way of doing all these things, we will learn about our own personal Ling Chi, the 1,000 little cuts that prevent us from being successful. Am I taking care of my skin properly? Have I given up those old habits that possibly led to you being in the situation you're in, if it's health related? And even if it's trauma related, you're gonna have to set some goals to get back on your feet, because typically with traumas, there's other injuries to your body. A lot of physical therapy sometimes is required. Setting those goals, staying motivated, wanting to get back up and living with limb loss or limb difference. There is no magic solution, no silver bullet. You may not pick it up right off the bat or right out the gate, but keep trying, keep practicing, keep showing up, keep waking up, keep taking those steps, keep going the extra mile. Eventually, you'll get there. Setting goals helps trigger new behaviors, helps guides your focus, and helps you sustain that momentum in life. Why it is so important for us to understand what is our Ling Chi. What are the little things that are preventing us from sustaining that forward momentum in life, even after something as traumatic as limb loss? We can still continue to move forward in a very successful and happy life. Setting goals helps us to trigger those new behaviors that we are going to need, learning those new habits that will guide us and keep us focused on our way to a better outcome. My friends, I hope this show meant something to you today. A little deep, probably not what you expected, but as you can see, Ling Chi, Death by 1,000 Cuts, goal setting, if we can really think about these little things in our lives, what is hampering us? Goals also help align your focus and promote a sense of self-mastery. That's so important as a new amputee, to master the new path that you're on. Goals help align your focus to promote this type of self-mastery, independence again, which we all want after going through something like limb loss. In the end, you can manage what you don't measure, or you can't manage what you don't measure. That's why goals are so important, and you can't improve upon something that you don't properly manage. Setting goals can help you do all of that and more. What can you do this week to take a small but meaningful step towards goals? Learn more about your values and goals. I will give you the tools to inspire a sense of meaning in your life on the next episode of Amp Life Talk Radio. So make sure you tune in, as we are going to be talking about creeping normality. What does that mean? Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Amp Life Talk Radio. I would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to another episode of this podcast that I love doing for you guys. And I hope that you found some information. Share it. I hope it was useful. If you would like to hear more, be sure to sign up for the newsletter over at amplifetalkradio.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Amp Life Talk Radio. Guys, we have social media pages. Give me a shout out or a big thanks or whatever it is you want to say, comments. I am going to be trying to line up some different people to have on the show. We'll get all that figured out here soon. And let me look at the time here. Man, I am running behind. Ooh, I got to get up off of here. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys tuning into the show, listening to the show. I'm very thankful and blessed to be able to do what I do. Hopefully, you will get something from the knowledge that I am gaining from the books that I am reading, as I try to pass along some of those lessons that I learned and some of the wonderful messages that I pick up in my daily readings and studies. Hopefully this talk meant something to you. Hopefully you will be able to discover what your Ling Chi is and move forward, set some goals, and have better outcomes. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening. Thanks for the support. And I'll see you back here at Amp Life Talk Radio. I'm your host, Sean Harrison. Have a wonderful, blessed, and safe day.
You are listening to Sean Harrison on Amp Life Talk Radio, a place for amputees and those dealing with limb loss. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.